Welcome to the Experts in Fire podcast. I'm Mike Vennard, your host, and with me today is Randy Mowry. He's one of our master hearth professionals here at Woodland Direct. Today's episode is, what are the differences between a direct vent and ventless fireplace? Let's get into it. Hey Randy, how you doing, my man?
Good. How's it going over there, Mike?
It's going good. You know, we switched up the times for doing these things, and so we're up a lot earlier and trying to do these. You're even in the office really early, huh?
I am. I looked over at the alarm clock and I was like, am I going to the gym or am I going to do work?
I love it. No, it's been fun doing these podcasts and really appreciate any input that our listeners have out there. We've got a number you can call. We've got ways to reach out to us. So please, if you have any questions or you ever want to talk to us, let us know, shoot us a line, and we'll get you in front of everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the differences between direct vent and ventless fireplaces, a common question that we get. So I was thinking, Randy, maybe we just go through the features of the direct vent side, and then we'll talk to the features of the ventless side, and we can kind of work into this because a lot of people they get confused when it comes to the differences between these two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're a lot of the same, but then there are some pretty major differences between the two different fireplaces. You know, and when I say the same, you know, a lot of the chassis, the structures of the fireplaces are pretty common across the board, but how they operate are completely different. So I think today is going to be a great day for a lot of folks so they understand and can make the right decisions of what they want to put in their homes.
That's solid. So let's dive into direct vent fireplaces. We sell a lot of direct vent fireplaces. We sell a lot of ventless fireplaces as well. So we'll start with direct vent. Is a direct vent fireplace zero clearance firebox?
They are, and so zero clearance, you know, what I'd like to let folks know about that, these things are going to be built into 2x4 wood constructed framing in the homes. They're going to be nailed right into the wood framing itself. It's not something where we have to do metal stud construction because it's a non-combustible type of building material. These are going to go right into wood for construction, zero clearance. The nice thing about direct vents are, you know, you can get these things up efficiency-wise up to like 85%. Direct vent simply means it's going to directly vent either up through the roof of the home, up through what is called a chimney chase that a builder will build. It's just a housing that the vent pipe goes through, or it can go up and straight out and terminate on the side wall, like the vertical side of the house.
Just a quick deviation here from gas fireplaces. When it comes to wood burning, you have to continue up the house. I mean, you're either going through the roof, or if you did go out the side of the house, you have to go up through a chase all the way up. And there are rules that you have to follow once you get to the roof line. But a direct vent fireplace is going to either go up and out or just right out the side of the wall. And those vents get hot. They always, you know, you'll see them. They'll say super hot on them. One of the things to watch out for, especially when we get into the install section and we start talking to our pros on the install itself. The reason I bring it up, though, that the fact that it can pump out the side wall is because it does have forced air to it. Could you talk to that for our listeners?
The direct vent, so what we're doing is we're pulling in fresh air. It's a double wall pipe. And what we're doing is we're pulling in fresh air and then also exhausting the flue gases out of the same vent pipe. So on the interior of the home, we have a solid glass panel. So the unit itself is not pulling any combustion air from within inside of the house itself. It's a completely sealed, you know, venting system. So we have no worries of air exchange with inside the house itself to operate the fireplace. And that's why you see these nice efficiencies, like up to 85% on some of the direct vent units.
And that is important on the feature side for everyone to understand, is that it's a fireplace that when you walk in and you see it, it has a glass front on it. You don't have that depth into the fireplace in terms of being able to actually reach inside of it. It's completely sealed. Because it's completely sealed, then you're utilizing exterior air for the combustion. And then you're also pushing that same combusted air out. It's the same pipe. In most cases, it's the same pipe. You get this tidy box with a vent that comes off of it. So let's talk to that, since we already touched on it. The features of these things, they can go from your standard fireplace, Rumford style fireplace, all the way to the craze right now is linear fireplaces, 6, 7, 8 feet long. You'll see them in a lot of different media pushes. Media outlets are pushing a lot of the linear style fireplaces, but they're a completely sealed box. And it's typically what you're going to see if you go to like a hotel, because they don't want kids to be able to stick their hand inside of the firebox itself. You see them in hotel lobbies and places like that. Let's move to the venting, though. The venting, typically, would you say, Randy, that this is probably one of the easier units to vent that we sell between wood and gas burning? Or are the complexities there that need to be understood?
From a construction standpoint, if the fireplace is on an outside wall, for example, one of the things that's really nice and convenient about a direct vent is you can put them anywhere in the home, anywhere in the country, East Coast to West Coast, North and South. Bedroom, bathroom, basements. There may be some code restrictions on a basement install just because of concrete walls, things of that nature, but they can be mounted anywhere. So using an outside wall for an example, which is a very common installation, you're talking, and with most of the manufacturers in direct vent, most of them are going to offer what they call a flexible vent kit, which is minimal venting, can be easily trimmed back to fit. Like if we're just going to go up a 90-degree angle and straight out the back, we'll say within 2 feet. It's a very simple installation versus, using the wood example where you have to go vertical. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to vent vertically through the roof. So you've got a lot more construction costs there because you have to build some type of either masonry and or chimney chase for that vent pipe. Well, we don't have to do that with direct vent. Now, with a direct vent on an interior wall, you still have the opportunity to go to a horizontal vent, meaning if it's in the middle of a room, but we have a bedroom above it, if there's space between the floor joists, ample to meet all of the clearance to combustibles for a horizontal vent, we can go up. So it does make it for a much better install for our contractors on a direct vent type of unit versus wood, and then the convenience for the homeowner of being able to push a button on a remote to operate it versus a wood burning too are huge these days.
Yeah, the simplicity of it, the ease of it. I also think in terms of the fact that a lot of people would rather just clean the glass on the front and not have to worry about cleaning the interior. That brings up a different issue, though. Even if you select a direct vent fireplace, you need to stay in contact with your local pro who does the install for you, because you need maintenance. Even though it's sealed, you still need maintenance on the inside. When it comes to the venting, it does allow for specific efficiencies because of the way we're pulling the air in and pushing the air out. Let's really dig into some of the install aspects of a direct vent fireplace.
With it being a sealed system, the venting itself is really important. We'll use 90-degree elbows or 45-degree elbows. So we all know that like an elbow is a weak point on anything. So if there's extra stress on an elbow, for example, you're going to create a gap at some point. And this is the scenario that we had. What was happening is the vent pipe didn't have any support at each of the elbow areas. So what was happening is there's gaps created in the venting. And so when that happens, because it is a sealed system, the fireplace just wasn't working. And so it was a matter of going through and checking each section of pipe, finding out where these weaknesses were. And it was just a matter of making sure that, because the vent piping is a twist lock system on the direct vents, they weren't twisted all the way and tight. And then plus the elbows weren't being supported. So when if you're going vertical, then putting an elbow, then going vertical again and putting another elbow in, what's happening without any kind of support at each elbow, you're putting all that stress on the elbows. And so you're going to get some sag. All that weight is going on those points.
A lot of times what'll end up happening is it's trying to pull in already combusted air because it has both inside of that pipe. So if you get a crack in there, you're getting a bad mix of air and you can't have good combustion. For our pros who are listening, we really appreciate and respect the pros out there who do the installs on these. I also know, just from our experiences here, what a pain in the butt reading every manual. And we can't have a conversation about direct vent or ventless fireplaces without speaking directly to the manuals. Every manufacturer, we have each manufacturer come in, they do in-depth install trainings, we put our hands on every unit. But the thing that we really specialize in is being able to dive into and have easy access to manuals for these fireplaces. And sometimes when you're on the site, especially as an installer, you don't necessarily have time or want to take the time to read the whole book to find the right thing. And that's where, for us, give us a call. We have an entire team on standby to help with that, as well as your sales rep as a Master Heart professional.
You have fire-related questions, and we have answers. You can email us your questions at podcast@woodlanddirect.com or give us a call at 586-221-3638. We would love to be able to answer them right here on the Experts in Fire podcast.
Just speak to, if you could, real fast, how the manual works, because I know there are typically a page or two that will tell you everything you need to know about where you can vent this outside.
One of the things I'd like to stress quickly as well, it's been coming up more and more. I don't know if it's because more and more folks are, just going to direct vents. Is a lot of the manufacturers have their own vent piping systems that are required to be used for their product. You can't just run to Home Depot and grab a direct vent piping for the fireplace. And all of that is spelled out in the manual. Now, they may call out 3 different manufacturers, or they may just have one. With a lot of them, you have to use their venting. Each manufacturer of a fireplace is going to have certain requirements based on the particular model of the fireplace of where that termination cap can be. When we're going through a roof, it's pretty common. It could be anywhere from, 12 to 18 inches sticking out of the roof. It's that side vent that's really important, because that is the one, from a safety standpoint, that people may brush up against, that we have windows, we have decks to the left, to the right, above. Those are all spelled out in the manual. And, and like you said, there's usually like 1 or 2 pages that have a graphic, like a little drawing of all these different scenarios. But that's when you're planning. Yeah, when you're planning for it, you just want to make sure that you're planning and where that cap is going to be at, because it may, from an outside corner, it may require 18 inches. It may require 12. Above grade, maybe 12 inches in one area and 2 feet in another. Well, we're in Michigan. We want to make sure that thing doesn't get covered up with snow. and then more importantly, you may install the unit, and then let's just say that you don't have a deck on the back, and you have that cap sticking, 5 feet up off the ground at that point. But then you want to build the deck, and then all of a sudden your deck is 2 feet. Now that thing is 3 feet. Now that could be a safety hazard from heat.
Yeah, so you've got extreme heat. You have to be aware of any objects around it. You also have to be aware of any windows or how close you are to the corner of the building to make sure that you're not going to get crazy winds. That's going to cause poor performance on the fireplace itself. And sometimes when you're talking with customers, they just don't care. They're like, no, it will fit right there. And you're like, no, I get it. It will fit. But we have a manual that says we can't put it here because it'll look good, but when you try and turn it on, it's going to look terrible. It's not going to ignite. It's not going to burn properly. On the venting side, Randy, is there anything else on the install? So you said it earlier, 0 clearance box. It's going to be framed around. Pretty standard chassis on it. You're going to frame around it. You're either going to bump out into the room, or if you want it flush with the face of the room, you're going to bump out outside. That's where you'll see a lot of bump outs on homes. Let's talk real fast just about if you do want it flush with the face of your room, you are going to need to support that bump out going outside. And there are special rules to that as well.
Yes, you're going to really lean on your contractor for any of the local codes for footings or what's going to be required for that particular bump out. You know, if it's going to have to be poured concrete, if they're going to have to pour a footing for that to set on top of it before they build out. And this is, you know, we're talking more of a, you know, on a remodel when you're doing something like that. A new construction, that's already built into the plans as part of, you know, what is going to be approved by the, you know, your township. Because the last thing you want to do is put a fireplace that's going to be a couple 100 pounds protruding to the outside and find that it sags and pulls away from the house.
Let's quickly run through some of the features of a ventless fireplace, and then we can talk to some of the points, some of the touch points, and some of the install points as well for our pros out there. When it comes to a ventless fireplace, what is the difference between that ventless and a direct vent?
So main difference right off the bat is there is no venting requirement for the ventless fireplace. So what they've done an amazing job of engineering these burner systems to be 99.9% efficient, okay? So where in a direct vent, if you were just to operate it without the glass on it, your byproduct is going to be carbon monoxide, okay? When we're talking about a vent free, our byproduct is basically like a water vapor. We're creating a moisture within inside the house, and about every 100,000 BTUs / 3 hours, depending on the heat output of a vent free, we're putting a gallon of moisture into the home, is what we're doing. So that's the byproduct. Now these are designed as true heating appliances. It is the best and most efficient way to heat a home, the overall structure of the units, because we have a lot of crossover between direct vent and vent free, meaning we have the same manufacturer that makes the exact same size unit in a direct vent, and they make the same one in a vent free. So they're using the same chassis structure. It just the efficiencies, the burners, everything is different about it on the interior. We have some restrictions on the interior of the home as well. We want to make sure we're taking dimensions of the room sizes. Because of the moisture that we're putting out, because of the heat that we're putting out, these operate with a oxygen depletion system. So, you know, if the fireplaces start to starve for air because they don't have enough air for combustion, they're going to shut themselves down. Unlike our direct vent, where we're pulling all of our air from outdoors, our vent free, we're pulling all of our combustion air from within inside the house envelope. And so that's why the measurements for the room space based on the fireplace are important. Restrictions, bedrooms and bathrooms. We talked about the direct vent. You can put them anywhere in the home. With a vent free, you're going to be limited on application of where these can go. Bedrooms, no more than 10,000 BTUs in a bedroom if it fits and meets the requirement for the dimensions. There could be some state or local city ordinances that don't even allow them. State of California, I'll just use them. You cannot put a vent-free fireplace in any home in the state of California. It's just their state requirement. You know, we're in Michigan. We do them all the time.
Absolutely. Those are solid points there between the differences. And one thing that really makes the vent-free something that people like to look at is when they're in a scenario where they can't do the venting itself, then they want to turn to the option of the ventless. It's not a bad option, but you already brought some caveats out there, Randy. You can't do it in a bathroom. A bedroom has to be a certain size before you can even consider doing it in a bedroom. And then there are just parts of the country where it doesn't matter if your bedroom is half of the house. If it's considered a bedroom, you can't have a ventless fireplace in there. So the point I'm trying to make is the rules differ everywhere. And even it's another one of these scenarios where it could be as simple as in the neighborhood next door, or the township next door, they're okay doing ventless, but in yours, there are regulations against it, all the way down to the local code.
Right. The local authorities, they're going to have jurisdiction over the codes. What I'd like folks to understand is we're talking about a ventless fireplace. It's open front. Now, they may have a solid screen for wandering hands on a little one so they don't stick their hand in the fire. They'll have a mesh barrier screen, like a safety screen. Remember, it's an open fireplace and it has no chimney. So unlike a traditional fireplace that is not only open and has a chimney, the fireplace itself, when you look at it, it is just open. There's no place for anything to go. So what I'm getting at is folks that have carpet, pets, or just a heavy area when you have the windows open. I'm just going to use like a farm area where you're pulling in a lot of dust, dirt, and things like that just from outside, just nature, just living. Those things are going to be in the fireplace. So when that fireplace lights up, what's going to happen? It's like running your arm over the burner on your stove. Those things are going to burn. Those are the things that are going to create some type of odor. It's not necessarily the fireplace. It's all these different like little elements that are inside the fireplace that are creating kind of an odor inside.
You know, the example I always used to use, and I know you guys on the sales floor use it all the time, is, you know, some people start thinking, oh my gosh, it's a fire and it doesn't vent anywhere. Is that safe? That's a fair question. That is a question that everyone should ask. But you use a great example in terms of a stove. You know, I just installed a gas stove in my house. You turn on all the burners, you probably have more BTUs going on my stove because I bought a nice stove than you do on a smaller ventless fireplace. But on my stove, you know, I clean my stove. You know, I when I'm done cooking, I take the grates off and I clean all the stuff up. You have to think of that ventless firebox the same way. If you're not cleaning it, then the hair and the dust and the fur from animals, all of that stuff's just sitting in there. And how often do you use it? You know, we have some customers in the Northeast who will use it for months on end, from as soon as the cold snap comes in the Northeast all the way until spring. So they're constantly burning, but a lot of folks flip it on for ambiance here and there. And man, we'll take those calls. It stinks. Well, has Fluffy been snuggled up next to the opening of that firebox?
Yeah, and a ventless fireplace, as efficient as they are and as great of units that they are, this may not be the application for somebody that has sensitivity to smells and things of that nature, just because of those, you know, things that we were just talking about here. And that's where a direct vent's going to come into play. You know, they each kind of have their own, you know, applications in a home and or a commercial property. Obviously, a direct vent in any commercial property is not a problem as long as we can vent it. A vent-free may not work very well in a commercial, we'll say like a cafe or a restaurant, if we have we have kitchen fans, and kitchen fan, I mean, those things really draw a lot of air. So, you between the HVAC system and commercial property, all the kitchen equipment, a vent-free may not be the best application for there because it may not work properly there. Because remember, we talked about these things have oxygen depletion systems in them. So if it's too close to some of these applications that have a more positive draw, then the fireplace may not work very well in that type of application. And so that's where we'd want to gear towards more of a direct vent unit.
Absolutely. One of the other things that really stands out when you're talking about a ventless or a vent-free system, it is the safety aspect of it, right? That oxygen depletion system is very, very important so that it's going to turn itself off. But one thing that really it's important, especially for our pros, because sometimes you get just into a groove, and a typical gas log set or even a typical direct vent set, you're going to set the logs onto the burner itself in a manner that it looks good. But with a ventless set, they have a very specific way that those logs go together. It's like a puzzle, and they have little pieces notched out, and you have to set those logs in the proper place, because as soon as you put something on in the wrong spot and we begin to impede a flame, that is where you can have incomplete combustion, and you have just bad air coming into the room.
Yeah, absolutely. They're very, very specific. The fireplaces can be offered in more of a traditional style, kind of like with the log set, like you were just talking about. And then you can do like the linear contemporary style with just the glass media. And the glass media is not going to be over the burner whatsoever. It's going to surround the burner, and the flame was going to come up in between it. So nothing is impeding that flame presentation, and so that the unit itself works properly.
Absolutely. That is where our homeowners who are considering, one thing you need to understand: if you have a gas stove, turn on your gas stove, and that's what your flame is going to look like on a ventless firebox. Now, they have come a long way. Some of the manufacturers we work with do an excellent job with their ribbon style burners and just trying to create a layer and a level of different flame. But the point I'm trying to make is there's going to be nothing on top of that flame. It's just going to be the flame coming from the burner, and typically at a lower BTU rate, because you have a maximum amount of BTUs that you can utilize in a ventless system. When it comes to just the look of the fire between a direct vent and a ventless, what's the difference?
Direct vent units, I mean, you can get up like direct vent fireplaces up in excess of 55,000 BTUs of heat. So when you're getting into those bigger units, you're gonna have some really nice flame presentation, whether it's a traditional style or if it's a linear burner. The heat output, so to speak, on a direct vent is gonna vary quite a bit across the board, whether it's a 48 inch, a 60 or a 72. With a ventless fireplace, though, no matter what size you get, it is going to be 40,000 BTUs. It is the absolute max. We talked about the oxygen depletion system. So we want to maintain air quality in somebody's home. And so that is the reason for the max output of the 40,000 BTUs on any given ventless fireplace. Now, as you go down in size, those are going to change. Bedrooms, no more than 10,000 BTUs, very limited options of what you're going to have. So flame presentation is going to be quite a bit different, of course, because it's more designed for heating. A lot of the products they're going to have nice flame. It's not going to be a big flame. A lot of folks that go from wood burning to gas, the flame is different. We're not going to build up that expectation. The last thing I'm going to let somebody know is, oh, this thing's going to just roar. No, it's not going to. It's not going to. This is about heating the space, having the ambiance of the flame. Flame height that's going to vary. It's going to bounce around, but it's not going to be this big, huge, roaring 12, 16 inches of flame coming out of their fireplace.
And that's a great point. That's what I was hoping you would point at. I knew you would point at. We have manufacturers right now on the direct vent side that are finding new and creative ways to drill out the holes on their burners and get a lot taller flames with the same amount of BTUs, but they're able to do that in a direct vent setting because that box, that chassis is completely enclosed, and they can control the amount of air coming in and what needs to go out. But when it comes to a ventless unit, there isn't a whole lot of creativity that can happen with the flame because you are limited in the number of BTUs and what those flames are allowed to touch. Is there anything else that you would want to let our pros and our homeowners know about?
Installation on a ventless fireplace is going to follow the same guidelines as a direct vent. It means of zero clearance, 2x4 construction. As far as the build goes, the main difference there is just going to be the ease of not having to do the vent for those guys. You always want to make sure that the contractor yourself is always teamed up with your electrician and your gas contractor as well for these things because they are specific as far as what the requirement's going to be for gas. And so if you're doing a remodel and you're taking out one gas appliance and you're installing a new one, like one of the ones that we chatted about, I would just encourage the contractor to make sure that they check the pressures on their gas line prior to hooking everything up to make sure that everything is in guideline with each appliance of whichever direction they're going.
Absolutely. You're 100% right, Randy, and I'm glad you brought that up. Every time we talk about gas, we've come back to this, and that is lean on your gas professionals. They know the rules. I'm thinking even in terms of ventless, if you're a pro and you have a call that's, a couple townships or a couple towns over, you can lean on your gas pro to say, hey, they're looking at a ventless. What are the local rules like there? Is this even a possibility? And they'd be able to tell you. Any final thoughts that you might have, Randy? I absolutely want to thank you. Great episode. I really appreciate all of the things that you bring to the table in these conversations.
No, it's awesome. I love it. I would encourage contractors, please give us a call. We're happy to work through and answer these questions and make sure that you're getting the right product for your client or helping your client directly, no matter who's doing the purchasing. This is what we do every day in making sure that everything is safe.
Absolutely. And we want to encourage all of our installers out there. We do have a local warehouse in Auburn Hills, Michigan, as well as we drop ship around the country. So if there's anything that you need, anything we can help you with, we're absolutely willing to do that.
You have been listening to the Experts in Fire podcast by Woodland Direct. I'm your host, Mike Vennard. Thanks for joining us today. Next time, we'll be discussing how patio heaters add value to your business. We'll see you then.